everyone, and welcome back to Real Estate Unlocked, your go-to mini-series where we break down everything you need to know about buying and selling a home. In this week's episode, we're talking about Section 7, Conditions in the Manitoba Offer to Purchase. Let's get started. Conditions are exactly what they sound like. They're requirements that must be met for the offer to become fully binding. If a condition isn't fulfilled or waived by the deadline, the contract terminates. Section 7 is where we clearly outline who the conditions benefit, what needs to happen, and by when. Part 1 of Section 7 is where buyer and seller conditions are clearly laid out. The first part focuses on conditions that benefit the buyer. These are very common, especially for first-time buyers. Some of the most typical buyer conditions include a property disclosure statement, so the buyer must receive and approve a seller's property disclosure statement by a specific date and time. Financing conditions, the buyer must obtain mortgage approval for an approximate amount by a set deadline. And a home inspection. So the buyer must complete and approve an independent property condition inspection or inspections by a certain deadline. Each of these conditions must have a clear deadline written in. If a due date isn't included, that condition does not form part of the contract, which is extremely important. There's also space for other conditions to be written in, which can include things like reviewing documents, selling an existing home, or any other situation-specific requirements. Part 1 also allows for conditions that benefit the seller, although these are less common. Seller's conditions might include securing another property, coordinating a move, or meeting certain timing requirements. Just like buyer conditions, the seller conditions must be clearly written out, and if there aren't any, then it's noted as none so that there is no confusion. In Part 2 of Section 7, it explains how these conditions actually work once the offer is accepted. So the party benefiting from the condition must act in good faith to make a reasonable effort to fulfill it. That same party also has the option to waive the condition if they're comfortable moving forward. If inspections or appraisals are required, the seller must provide reasonable access to the property so that these conditions can be completed. Once a condition is fulfilled or waived, written notice must be given to the other party before the deadline. This step is crucial. If written notice isn't provided on time, the condition is automatically considered not fulfilled and the contract can terminate. If a condition isn't fulfilled, the other party can request proof that reasonable effort was made. So for example, a letter declining financing if the condition relates to a mortgage. Part 2 also clarifies who can give notice and how it can be delivered. So whether that's through the buyer, the seller, their lawyers, or their brokerages. Section 7 provides clarity for both buyers and sellers during the conditional period and acts as a built-in safety net within the offer. When handled properly, these conditions help keep the transaction on track while allowing time for due diligence. That's it for today's episode of Real Estate Unlocked. If you found this helpful, make sure to like, subscribe, and follow along for episode 12, where we talk about permitted title encumbrances. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week.